on, sing it, Matthew.
The credits, gosh, how do they, which one are we doing?
You can't see it on your screen?
Yeah. Well, I'm in a really sad situation, stuck working in COVID sanitation. Except I'm probably...
Yeah, you're only about 30 seconds behind.
But if I do well, he only works me more.
But he'll have me whipped if he hears me whine, or worse, make me work in his uranium mine. I need a
Okay. Enough of the silliness. We have a serious Star Trek episode to talk about. Oh, wait, no, we don't. And my image froze again. What is up with that? It's like you're moving and I'm frozen.
Yeah, how weird.
That's really bizarre. Let me try, because on my camera it looks good. And keep them entertained here while I'm trying to fix this.
Yeah, it's also weird because over in Skype, I can't see you at all. It's just your Turticon.
Yeah, Turticon? Is that a word?
Yeah, it is for now.
Okay, new one for me. All right, and so devices, video. Yeah, this is getting off to a great start. Yeah, see, that doesn't work. Yeah, let's try.
You know, the way you're coming in and out, it does feel like an old TOS transporter factor.
Yes, beam me up, and yeah, keep them entertained. I'm trying to restart the camera here.
All right. Well, hello to Commodore Ty, Bradley Briggs, Dreamer
out there.
Dreamer out there. Okay. Donnie Pearson, John the former president, Mike Richards, and that's everyone so far. How you guys doing tonight? Yeah, they did show in a kind of a side flash or flashback that Mariner in a Star Trek outfit, the TNG movie era outfit.
Yeah, that was actually kind of cool.
They did look DS9-ish, but I'm pretty sure they were TNG movie era, which admittedly were similar, but
aren't they like
minor differences. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, they had so many fun. This episode was chock full of fun references for anyone who would catch it.
There was a lot. Man, probably too many to count.
Yeah, but before the episode started, I saw there was like a 50-second clip of Easter eggs in last week's episode. So I went ahead and watched it like, oh, this will be fun. And it turned out the Easter egg, it was just one. And it was talking about how the reason Mariner, when she got her promotion, had a yellow shirt or gold shirt was because when Geordi went from a red shirt to being chief engineer, he got a yellow shirt. So they were referencing that. I'm like, well, I wouldn't really call that an Easter egg per se. Clearly, I get that you think it's an Easter egg.
Right.
But there was a specific reason why he went to the gold shirt. He went from being ops into being technical, which was an appropriate color change.
Yeah. And I guess they're just going to see your face because I can't get my camera working. I don't know what's going on. I'll have to reboot everything after the stream. So, congratulations. You're staring at an empty bridge for the remainder of the live stream. So, yeah,
Eric,
it was...
Are you there?
Yeah.
Spock? Anyone?
Is there anybody aboard? So, let me see real quick. So, Donnie said, hello, hope everything's okay. Dreamers out there during Descent Part 1 and 2 with Laura and the Borg and DS9. They'll be wearing Voyager uniforms. Yeah, it was, I mean, granted, the timing of the uniforms wasn't perfect, but it was still a funny little reference. Oh, can you believe Data has an evil twin and he's teamed up with the Borg? I thought that was kind of funny. And I also liked, I don't know if you caught it, but it's like, wow, it seems like something new happens to them every week.
Yeah.
You know, which I thought that was a cute little thing. So I thought the flashbacks were fun, even if not technically 100% accurate. And so we have now. This was another episode that felt a lot like if you remove the jokes, this would fit as a TNG episode, where you have a couple of planets that have one of the planets has a bunch of moons. The planet is in serious jeopardy because one of the moons is going to crash into the planet, killing the entire population of the planet. But if they destroy the moon, then another planet in the same system becomes uninhabitable. And so how do you make that impossible choice, right? Because you have the power to destroy that moon, but if you use that power to destroy the moon, you're saving one civilization while dooming another. At least that's what it appears to be for 99.9% of the episode. And then the punchline comes in that the other planet was inhabited by two people, which is another Trek reference, of course. Remember this?
Yes.
What I can't remember, is it the Survivors?
I forget the name of the episode, but it was
Yeah.
the two old people, and it turned out one of them wasn't even there.
And so as soon as Captain Freeman realizes that there's only two people on the planet, he's like, "Yeah, blow up the moon."
It was real funny too, because she was pissed because this guy has been like, if you implode my planet, you'll have blood on your hands.
Yes, you're a murderer. You're a murderer. Yeah. And it turns out that there's one other person there. And he let it slip out where he's like, "Yes, the both of us will be doomed." And she's like, "Wait a minute, both of you? How many people are on your planet?" Another episode where Mariner, we were kind of thinking that she was going to be Mary Sue-ish, but she didn't. At the end, because Mariner is absolutely convinced that Boimler's girlfriend must be an alien or something that's going to kill him, or is doing something because she's way too hot to be dating him. And so we go through this whole episode with her trying to prove that she is it's like some kind of alien parasite or something, it never does happen. Now, yes, they do have a couple of jokes at Boimler's expense, and because Boimler really, and I actually think was it LDG said, Boimler really makes him think of Fry from Futurama. I think there's some truth to that, except that Boimler is much smarter and more capable than Fry. But he's socially inept. And so the idea of him scoring the hot chick does seem a little silly. And so then we find out that there was a parasite, but the parasite was not the girl. The parasite was actually attached to Boimler's head, and it made him irresistible to females. And LD's, "Hey, where the heck am I? My camera is if I turn on my camera, then it's a frozen image from when we first started the stream. I do not know why." See, that's the only thing that comes up. And yeah, maybe I should unplug the USB and plug it back in. That might work. So keep them entertained while I do that real quick. So
Okay.
Do a tap dance or something.
Hello, my honey. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Tell them my heart's on fire. That's all the song I know. That's where they stopped in Looney Tunes.
That's more than I knew of it. I mean, that's pretty good. All right. So hopefully that kept everybody entertained. And hey, it worked! Your singing has saved us. So
I aim to please.
yes. Although, now the camera's all out of whack because, reasons. But there we go. All right. So thank you. So that's all we need to do. And the only other time I think of that song is, of course, Spaceballs. You remember the ending of Spaceballs?
I do remember the ending of Spaceballs. I don't remember
there was a diner, and the guy was convulsing just like an alien, and the alien comes out and then puts on a top hat and starts singing across the counter.
That's right. Yeah.
So I don't know if was he singing that same song? I don't remember. So yeah.
I think so.
So Dreamers Out There says, I'm not even sure what I think of this one. It's just so manic. Well, it was, but it also, it's funny because there were bits of it that I thought could have been trimmed, or at least could have been paced a little better. I thought that the B plot with Rutherford and Tindy, for the most part, worked. It was a decent B plot, but I do feel like they crammed the references into this one, because it seemed like every time Mariner opened up her mouth, there was like 17 different episodes of Star Trek she was referencing, which was fun, but still, it was just constantly hit me. But overall, I enjoyed this episode. I don't think it was quite as strong as episode 3, but I would put it on par with episode 4. Now, I know you liked episode 4 more than episode 3, right?
Yeah.
So, where would you rank this one?
I would put this one below 4. It was fun, but honestly, the Tindy and Rutherford plot was extraneous to the episode.
Right. It didn't serve a definitive purpose. It wasn't a parallel story or anything.
Yeah.
It was just the two of them wanting to get T-88s.
Yeah, so I would have enjoyed either them tying that back in to the episode at large, or ignore it completely and focus just on the captain and her trying to pacify the needs of the different race, or the race there.
Right.
And then had the B plot being, or I guess that would be the B plot, and had the A plot be the Boimler and whatever her name was, the blonde.
Yeah. We'll just call her the blonde. And Dreamers Out There says, also showed the USS Quintos, an Olympus-class ship like the Pasteur in All Good Things. Would that ship have been in service during TNG descent? I don't think they ever said in on-screen canon when the Olympus-class starship was first commissioned, so I don't have a problem with that. The uniforms, yeah, you could make the argument that didn't quite fit, but at the same time, it was kind of cool to see a classic design and classic uniforms. So, I mean, I didn't have a problem with that. And Daniel's Hot Topics is in the house. Good to see you, Daniel. Says, hi, back again. This was a fun stream tonight. Forgot to talk about the rumor that Captain April is yammering on about where Kurtzman is only 5 years, and after they will get rid of him and cancel all his shows. Well, I wouldn't put too much stock in any of the rumors circulating about people getting fired unless they actually get fired. That's kind of where I stand with that. Dreamers Out There said, like seeing the Olympus class at DS9 and seeing the uniforms. Yeah, I kind of liked it, even though, the uniforms was a little off because of the fact that at the time that Descent took place, DS9 had not premiered by that point, so I don't think.
Descent was season 5.
See, now I gotta think.
Because DS9 premiered in the middle of season 5, didn't it? Or at the same during season.
Descent was. I know what it's about. Next episode, Descent Part 2. Let's see. It's TNG episode 6. So it's the season finale of season 6 and the season premiere of season 7.
Oh yeah, DS9 was totally out by then.
Right, but at that point, wasn't DS9 using the Voyager style uniforms? They didn't switch to the gray.
Oh.
Good morning. Split the profit, guys.
I think you're right on that one.
Yeah. And Yosef is in the house with a €2 super chat. Says, good morning, split the profit. Well, I would love to split the profit, but unfortunately, Matthew only deals with Korogan currency, which has no value anywhere else. So if I give him a penny, that's like infinite dollars in Korogan marks.
Let's not get into that discussion again with infinity.
That's the only actual infinite that there is $1 equals infinity dollars in Kurogan currency.
I try to get change, but as you know, you can't get half of infinity.
Yeah. LD is probably slamming his keyboard against the wall right now. So, no, overall though, I kind of like how this this series is kind of finding its niche, which is it's doing TNG style stories with comedic flair. And that seems to be where they're going with it. That seems to be what they're sticking to. I know that early on there were people were. Oh, by the way, did you notice this was the first episode with no opening stinger?
Yes, they went straight into the opening credits.
Yeah, that threw me off. And so that I did find a little odd because they'd not done that before, and up to this point they followed the standard Trek tradition of having an opening stinger, but for whatever reason they didn't. They also implied that Mariner is a lesbian or bisexual.
Did they? I kind of missed that.
It seems that Mariner and Hot Blonde Chick are kind of a thing at the end of it, but they only kind of very vaguely hinted at it. And Dreamers Out There puts $5 in, which is 5 infinity Kurogan marks.
That's the problem, putting it at DS9 during Decent 1 and 2. It dates it so we know what uniforms they should be wearing. The voice.
Anta, I can't hear you anymore. Are you still there?
Yeah, you couldn't hear me?
No, I couldn't hear you for a second.
Well, that's because I waited while the automated voice was reading Dreamers Out There's super chat.
Oh.
Remember, I always do that. That's nothing new. Idiot. Anyway, so but you're right, Dreamers Out There. So I don't know, you couldn't hear the computer voice, so I don't think, right?
No, but I can read his super chat in the stream.
Right. So I agree with you that technically speaking, they should have been the Voyager uniforms, right? But they used the DS9 grays that came around season 3 or 4. I can't remember when. And it is what it is. I think they use those uniforms because they're what most people think are the coolest. And the Fed is in the house, throws in $5 Australian and actually says, "Hello, lads." So, and of course now the computer voice is not going to read it because why would it? Come on. Any day now. They got him in season 5. Okay, I wasn't sure, Dreamers Out There. I remember was the first time we saw them. Oh, now here comes the super chat because, of course.
I got him! Great hit! Don't get cocky.
Hello lads. Not stopping as usual, just giving my usual donation. Been busy as all balls. Looking forward to enjoying this last week. You peeps.
Okay, it looks... Is it done?
Yeah,
I hope it's done. Okay. It looks like season 5, episode 13, which is appropriately named for the uniform. It's the first time that we see the gray uniform.
Right. And that's what I was going to say, Dreamers Out There. I thought that now First Contact was actually the first time we saw the uniforms, right? But did that come out before? I'm trying to think, because since First Contact was a summer movie, wasn't it? Or was it a winter movie?
I have no idea. I don't think I actually saw it in theaters. I didn't see it till it was out on VHS.
What?
Yeah.
Blasphemy, my friend.
Oh, yeah. I rarely got to see things in theaters. Even before I had kids.
Yeah, whatever.
I've just been poor.
Yeah. Meanwhile, he's sitting there just sipping on a champagne and beluga caviar and, yeah. You should see this guy. He's filthy freaking rich, and I'm poor.
Yeah, that's why I got the vest. It's, I'm so poor with this Goodwill store vest.
Goodwill store. That's made from the silk of 1,000 spiders. Let me see. I'm trying to find the date now. Looking at the IMDb page, let's just say Star Trek First Contact release. Hey, I'm not looking up review. I know everybody. I hate First Contact. Blah blah blah. No, oh, it was winter is November 22nd, so that would make sense that it would have come out during the season break for Deep Space Nine, and then the first episode after the season break would have had the new uniforms. So that's actually very clever timing on their part.
Okay, it looks like I was wrong. It was Rapture episode 10 of season 5.
Okay, so let's look at that. So DS9 Rapture.
Yeah.
And it aired December 30th, 1996. So yeah, that's not bad. They timed it perfectly. But yeah, unfortunately, I know the timing was of Descent, even though the uniforms were from later on. But at the same time, I think it was a fun gag.
It was, and it made for a good visual cue that this was a different ship, a different time than now, and it worked.
So Monty Spatchcock is in the house. Good to see you. And LDG Pixels is if only your jokes were half infinity funny, I might smile.
You might infinitely smile.
That would be creepy. I'm not picturing LDG smiling, but his mouth stretches across the entirety of the universe. I can't get that image out of my head. Thanks, Matthew.
I try.
You broke me. But it's okay, dreamers out there. Nitpicking is what nerds do. It's totally cool. But I think the important thing is that while it was a little bit off with that stuff, but overall, what they've successfully done with this series, in my opinion, is made Star Trek fun again. And that's something that has been sorely been lacking from Generation 3 Trek. In fact, honestly, this is probably the first time that I've looked forward to Star Trek since Into Darkness premiered.
Okay.
I actually enjoyed Star Trek 2009. I didn't think it was, the greatest, but I thought it was, it was a fun popcorn flick. Star Trek Into Darkness, the whole Khan thing was so overplayed. But,
yeah.
That was, I didn't hate it, but I was like, what I did hate was Spock yelling Khan. That was the worst. And
I did look forward to 2009. I didn't look forward to Into Darkness, and I still haven't watched all of Beyond.
Beyond sucked. Beyond honestly of the Star Trek films, Beyond is probably my least favorite of all of the Star Trek films.
Even more than First Contact?
Yes, even more than
Whoa.
First Contact. I know you find that shocking, but
Yeah.
it is true. Yeah, Beyond was so not only, because it's bad enough when you have the pompous Picard trying to argue that Starfleet is not the military, right? But this one, the entire plot centers around Starfleet not being the military. And the reason that the motivation of the bad guy is that he's pissed off that Starfleet is not the military.
Huh. I don't feel like I'm missing anything.
You're not. Although you did miss when the USS Franklin saved the gigantic Death Star-sized starbase from a swarm of spaceships using the power of rock and roll.
I did see the BC Boys scene, yes.
Yeah.
Hey, so Mariner in this episode, she continues to be the rapid fire reference, but she's not being annoying.
Not as annoying, no. And because she is, I think the fact that they kind of slapped her down a little bit in episode 3, and they've kind of held her at a not quite Mary Sue level. Like episode 1 and 2, she was insufferable. And then episode 3, they completely slapped her down. And then episode 4 and 5, yes, she is very capable. She's probably the most capable of our main characters, but that's mainly because she's the most experienced. You know, she's way more experienced than any ensign should be, and it's because she's been busted down. And that actually makes a certain amount of sense. So, I don't have a problem with that, you know, because it's like, in this one, I kept thinking, okay, so she's a badass, but she's not all-knowing. Like, obviously, she was wrong throughout this entire episode when she's trying to prove the other girl is some kind of weird space parasite or something. And of course, she names off every possible alien in Star Trek history, from the salt vampire through the changelings and everything. Every shape-shifting creature from Star Trek she names. And or anything that could take control of your mind, you know. So, because she's absolutely convinced that she is either an alien or under the control of an alien.
Yeah, it was fun the way that Boimler and her had the same overall worry going on, but for two radically different reasons.
Right. Boimler was worried just because he knows that he should not, you know, she should not find him attractive, because he's a dweeby little nerd, like, you know, most of us in the nerd community, and she's the hot chick that none of us deserve to get. And so, and so that's how he saw, you know, and so he was incredibly insecure when he realizes that the big beefy lieutenant from the Cerritos was her ex-boyfriend. And so that
and the way he describes him, a mix between Kirk and Trip.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it was, and so that, I could understand why he's feeling a little insecure about that. And so, but Mariner, of course, was just convinced that she must be an alien or something, because how in the world could she find him attractive?
Yeah.
And Yosef says, "Are you telling me that there's a parasite in me?" Not directly, Yosef. I'm simply saying that if, you know, it's entirely possible that one of these parasites is in you, and actually specifically on the back of your head, hiding under your hair, assuming that your wife is way out of your league. Like, I'm pretty sure that one of those parasites is on the back of my head. I'm not going to lie. And let's see. Dreamers out there. Okay, so now he's good. Now you're getting the dates here. Hello, world. Okay, so wait a minute. Live with Matthews. The computer voice is reading now.
Great kid. Don't get cocky.
Lower Decks is set in 2380. Decent P1 and 2 is 2369. So that flashback was 11 years ago. That implies she has had a long career.
Unless, and this is, I get what you're saying, but what if this flashback was only like 2 or 3 years ago, or like the first time she was an ensign, right? That's what I would assume. So let's say it was like 2 or 3 years ago, and she's basically just talking about something she had just heard. Like, she just found out that Data had an evil twin. Because, I mean, obviously they don't advertise, you know, it's not like it comes, this week on the Federation News, Data has an evil twin. You know, it's not like that. So maybe she just got, you know, she just heard through the grapevine that Data had an evil twin, and that evil twin actually tried to, you know, team up with the Borg. I mean, that's one explanation. Another explanation is that Mike McMahon didn't computate his dates properly, or he just figured, screw it, it's a funny gag.
And that's what I'm assuming, that he's sacrificing accuracy for gags.
Right.
That's what you do in
a comedy
show.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is that if it's funny, that trumps accuracy in a comedy. If we were talking about a dramatic Trek series, then, you know, I think that would be a more valid complaint. And I understand you're being a stickler about it, Dreamers out there, and I don't fault you for it, because, like I said, that's what we do. But, you know, honestly, I think that it's just the fact that it's meant to be. They were just trying to make something funny. LD says, each episode had a pay attention to detail gag in it. What did this one have? Well, we're kind of what we're talking about here. I mean, like, honestly, the uniforms and the dates and all that don't quite add up. And, I'm wondering if they're, what I'm really curious about is, like, are they going to revisit some of the things that they've kind of left hanging? Like that alien that, in episode 2, I think it was, the Mariner tried to grab the non-corporeal alien, and then it gave her the cool striped tricorder, and then it became little tiny, and then it looked like it was going into her mom.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that coming back at some point? What's the deal with that? Maybe
I hope
not,
they do. I think it'd be hilarious if the mom got pregnant from that.
That would be funny. You're gonna have a little brother and sister. And Trek. Oh well, I guess Trek Viewer retracted whatever Trek Reviewer said. So hopefully you'll retype it. I hope. She's so effing is. Oh, your wife. Okay, I was like, what are you talking about? She is what? I was like, yeah. Well, in that case, you may have a brain parasite. And the brain parasite had a little silly voice like this for some reason. Why not? Trek Viewer says, "Oh, what? And now you just retracted it again. I can't stop that."
I almost got to read it.
All right, now we got to read this one quickly. The Trek Reviewer puts it up again. I'm going to read it fast. So,
but did it have a blink and you'll miss it gag nonstop?
I don't know. Okay, wait. Trek Viewer.
Hold on. If Starfleet is not the military, why do they fight every war we see, i.e. the Klingons, Cardassians, and the Dominion Wars? Okay.
So, that's where, like, now my headcanon, I think, works better than Darren's explanation. Darren Wagner's explanation to that is simply that Picard was basically delusional when he made the comment that Starfleet is not a military organization. My headcanon on it is that in Star Trek VI, when they say that they're going to dismantle the space stations along the Klingon neutral zone, and one of the captains says, so are we talking about mothballing the Starfleet? And the response is, well, I'm sure that our exploratory and scientific programs will be unaffected. At that moment, Starfleet ceased being the military. Basically, at the retirement of James T. Kirk, Kirk was the last great military commander of Starfleet. Fast forward to Picard's era. And Picard is like, oh, Starfleet is not a military organization. No, we've evolved beyond the need for such things, and we all do things to better ourselves and our world. And by the way, I have a vineyard, And so then Q snaps his fingers, we bump into the Borg, and Picard's like, oh, crap. And Starfleet's like, oh, crap. We better start developing weapons. And even though the Borg don't show up for a full year, they still are like 18 months away from having functional weapons that could actually take on the Borg. And so, but by the time TNG becomes Deep Space Nine, Starfleet is the military again. And that's why we got to see that in full force in First Contact, when we see the Akira class, the Steamrunner class, the new breed of ships, that the first of its kind was the Defiant. And I think that theory holds up. If you look at Memory Alpha and you look at the names or the class of vessels for the main ship, so the Connie was a heavy cruiser, right?
And then the Enterprise B was classified as an explorer type ship, even though it was even more powerful than the Connie.
Right.
The C was again a heavy cruiser, and the D was an explorer. And if you look at the timeline of what we know, the B occurred during like a peaceful time period. We had peace with the Klingons after Star
Right.
Trek 6. And then we know that the sea came around during a time period in which we were kind of at war again with the Klingons. And then with the destruction of the sea, we had peace with the Klingons because, the Federation came to the rescue.
Right.
And so then the D came along, and even though it was more powerful than the C, because it was built during a time of war, we reclassified it to be an explorer class because, hey, you know what? We're all lovey-dovey now, and we're not the military.
And actually, the one interesting thing though is that have weapons technology and shield technology have they even substantially improved from the time of Star Trek: The Motion Picture to Star Trek: The Next Generation? And we don't know, but it would see. But what's interesting is that Star Trek: The Motion Picture was the first time we see orange phasers, and they stay orange all the way through till Next Generation. So I think the last major improvement in phasers was the leap from the Connie to the Connie refit, which would make sense because after that, Starfleet stopped trying to develop as a military and was basically just, oh yeah, we'll put weapons on in case we run into trouble, but we're really out here to explore and drink tea and be English and say we're French, because why not? Dreamers out there says, also found the USS Vancouver a bit confusing. Did it have the exact same bridge and engineering as the Cerritos? I'm sure Trek Yards will probably do a frame-by-frame breakdown of it to try and compare the bridges of the two. They did seem very similar, especially the bridge shots. The bridge did seem to be laid out pretty much the same, which looked like a squashed-down version of the Enterprise D bridge. Kind of if you will, a hybridization of the Enterprise D bridge with the Voyager bridge that you have behind you right now.
Okay, I see that.
And so, I'm sorry, my sinuses are being crazy, so forgive the sniffles there.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, I do agree that the Vancouver, while it was supposed to be, this is a newer, better class of starship, then why doesn't the bridge look significantly different? It's like, especially since the captain of the Vancouver was even bragging to Captain Freeman about what an awesome ship she has. And it's like, well, it looks pretty much the same on the inside. I'm not really all that impressed.
Yeah, even the outside wasn't too significantly different.
Well, the outside,
I did notice that
the outside had the
shuttles.
integrated secondary hull, which I liked.
Yeah.
I actually like the design of the Vancouver a lot more than the Cerritos.
If you notice, the shuttles on the Vancouver all had Canadian city names.
Yeah, which makes sense because it's the Vancouver.
Yeah.
Just like the California class starships, the shuttles all have the name of California state parks.
Yeah.
And so, which I did, I know that was a thing, but I noticed it, I should say, when they showed the names of the shuttles, like the Yosemite and stuff like that. But then Mike McMahon confirmed that in his Trek Yards interview. The reason Picard says Starfleet isn't the military is because he likes the rest of the Federation, because he, like the rest of the Federation, are too incompetent to be entrusted with one. Wow. I don't think that Picard is incompetent. I think that based on what I argue, he was correct. At that time, Starfleet wasn't the military. And in fact, notice how he and Riker both kind of poo-pooed at the idea, and that's from the episode Peak Performance. They both kind of poo-poo at the idea that combat is even a necessary function of a starship. And that why in the world are we wasting our time with combat training? But it's obviously because of the Borg threat at that point. And if I remember correctly, that is the actual explanation given on screen, is that they're doing the war games because with the recent threat from the Borg, that's why Picard reluctantly agreed to let them do this war games.
Yeah.
But I think that back at Starfleet headquarters, they're like, "Oh man, if all our commanders are as stuffy as Picard about this, we're in trouble." Dreamers out there like the nacelles in the Vancouver. They look similar to the nacelles on the E. Yeah, I like the nacelles on the Vancouver better too. I did notice that. And so, my advice to CBS would be to steal Cobra Kai staff and use them for Star Trek. Well, then all we do is get like Starfleet officers, trying to be Daniel-san. that would. I get what you're saying. Honestly, it's not that they need those specific writers. You just need. We need to get rid of the concept of the writers' room. That's really what's killing Trek. Is that, what made a lot of the classic Trek classic is that they had sci-fi writers writing a TV show. Now we have television writers writing a sci-fi show. And so these guys, they don't see the difference between writing an episode of Star Trek or, an episode of CSI Space. Sisko is the best of the modern military commanders. Well, he was the first truly military commander of the Generation 2.
Janeway was a pure scientist.
Right. Janeway was, Picard was an explorer. Sisko was military. Janeway was science. And Archer was an explorer. Really there are only two military commanders in Trek, and that's Kirk and Sisko. I mean, just being real about it.
In fact, it almost makes no sense for Janeway to even have been assigned to the Badlands mission.
Well, she could see if there was coffee in the Badlands. That's yeah. Yeah, CSI Space Victims Unit, indeed. That's what that's. And that's the problem. Like, if you look at CBS, if you watch, and I'm not talking about Lower Decks here, because Lower Decks is the first new Trek that actually feels like Trek. But if you compare, like, Discovery first two seasons or Picard, and you compare that to CSI or Magnum PI or any of the other shows that CBS currently has, you can tell it's the same writer's room. It's just they're just transferring their story from being in Hawaii to being in the Alpha Quadrant.
Yeah,
and honestly, it sucks because Star Trek deserves real writers that understand that this is not a police procedural. This is supposed to be a sci-fi epic, but unfortunately, we have lost, especially if you're going to serialize it. If you were not planning on serializing, if you were just going to do an episodic thing, then I don't know, maybe it would be better. But when they're serializing everything the way they are, it's like so painful to watch when it's just basically it's a 10-hour long episode of Magnum PI.
Yeah.
And that's depressing. However, I do enjoy Lower Decks because, like I said, they're trying to actually they're not only poking fun at Star Trek tropes, but they're doing it while telling genuine Star Trek stories, and that's fun.
Now, do you think that they're trying to establish a relationship between Mariner and Boimler, or Rutherford and Tindy?
Not so far. It seems like, I mean, like I could see Mariner and Boimler eventually getting together, but I don't think that that's what they're trying to do. I don't think they're trying to force a relationship. Tindy and Rutherford I could definitely see, because they're birds of a feather. Although it's kind of weird that Tindy, like the two of them, like Tindy's in medical, Rutherford's in engineering, and in the first couple of episodes, Tindy would be at sickbay and Rutherford would be in engineering. But now they're like hanging out together and doing stuff together all the time.
Yeah.
And let's see, Robert Green donated $3.
Trekyards don't get enough credit for what they do. I love them. Give a shout out to the Cap and Commander.
So I know you couldn't see it because it was a Streamlabs, but basically was saying that Trek Yards does not get enough credit for what they do, and that is I agree with you 100%. Trek Yards is criminally undersubbed, even though I know that they have several times the subs that I do, but at the same time, they have like I think 54, somewhere around 54, 58,000 subs. They should, and Lore Reloaded has more subs than Trek Yards, and don't get me wrong, Laura is a friend, and I'm happy for his success. But dang it, Foley and Cockings put a lot of work into that channel, and I seriously, I find it depressing that channels can get upwards of 200,000 subs by just basically being angry at Trek, while a true fanboy channel, a channel that is devoted to Trek and loving what's good about Trek, can't get more than 50,000. That's
Yeah.
just, I hate that, because I do think Captain Foley and Commander Cockings, both great guys. I've had long conversations with both of them, and I hate the fact that they're not just like rolling in money. But and yeah, and they have connections, obviously. They've had Probert on several times. They've had many of the people that have been behind the scenes movers and shakers in Trek, and of course, most recently they had Mike McMahon on, the creator of this show. And so,
How did they manage that?
they have friends in high places or low places, depending on how you look at it, I guess. I don't know. It's just like Orville Nation. Look at Orville Nation. PG over there gets all these. We had freaking Alan Dean Foster on Orville Nation a few weeks ago, and I mean, I was fanboying out. I don't usually fanboy out, but talking to Alan Dean Foster, the guy. I mean, I have like a comic book written by him. In my collection. It's the very first comic book I ever purchased with my own money. It was a Star Trek comic book, and he wrote it. And I read the Star Trek logs, which were all written by him. And he wrote the novelizations of a lot of our favorite movies and stuff. So yeah, he's a great writer. And how does PJ do it? I don't know. I wish I had their magic, because wow. And PJ's got a small channel. It's amazing to me. So
I was honestly having a bit of jealousy this morning about. I saw that there was a channel that started up after me that hit a pretty big milestone, one that's far off in my future still, I know. And they follow the hate formula, where they just come on and they spew hate.
yeah.
And I was feeling real jealous. So your bump, your shout out to me this morning to get me over 200 really made me happy, because I was feeling jealous anyway.
Well, I'm glad I was able to help, even if it's not that big a bump. And yeah, Splinter of a Mind's Eye. Yeah, I think that was his. Yeah, he's Alan Dean Foster is a great writer, and unfortunately, that's the kind of talent that CBS needs to recruit. Rather than getting their staff writings rooms to sit there and just basically regurgitate the same story, only in space.
Mm-hmm.
And Yosa, or let's see, Monty says, or they're just too incompetent to have one. A group like the Federation would rely on the military to allow its bizarre utopian society to even exist past some hippie colony. Well, I don't know if they're too incompetent to have a military, because I mean, they had one by first contact. I mean, the Enterprise E is a straight up warship. And that's the kind of a funny thing, is that if you look at Picard's character, he went from being, the soul of a poet and the heart of an explorer to, freaking
Rambo.
to Rambo in the films. And it was like, really? What happened? And the funny thing is, like, then you get to Picard, and my biggest beef with Picard, well, I did enjoy the show, but I still could never get past the fact that he was fighting for the right to have artificial employees. that he was actually trying to say, oh my God, I can't believe the Federation is banning synth labor. And it's like, dude, you are the same person that in season 1 of TNG was warning against the dangers of artificial people becoming a slave race, and now you want those slaves.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's
It's
got
one of his better speeches in Better Measure of a Man.
yeah, and you know, he's sitting there fighting for synthetic slavery, and by the way, he's got his Romulan servants taking care of him. You know, all we needed was for the Romulans to go, yes, Amasa. You know, I mean, seriously, what? So Yosef says, I heard perfect analogy about the Phantom Menace, bashing everything Star Trek, like beating up your wife because you love her. That's horrible.
That is horrible. I also disagree. Like,
Well,
I guess I disagree because I do know, and Trek, I think you know even more about behind the scenes of movie stuff than I do, like the production wise stuff.
Mhm.
But I do know that this is hardly the first time people have rebelled against Hollywood for making crappy movies.
right, but I think it's more visceral. You know, usually, like, man, I'll tell you, when Star Trek The Next Generation came out, a lot of fans, I know that most of people watching this were too young to remember 1986, but a lot of us were angry because we're like, what is this? This isn't Star Trek. Who's this stuffy old bald guy in cap? And what is with this bulbous, gargantuan hotel in space? That doesn't make any sense. And the difference, though, is that, you know, while there was that outcry from the fans, there was two things about it. First of all, the fans weren't hateful at the level that the Phantom Menace is. Second of all, the studios listened, and by season 3, they got Trek on track.
Mm-hmm.
Or, as Lore Reloaded would say, they got track on track, because he can't say Trek for some reason. And you struggle with it. You say like Trek half the time and track half the time.
Do I? That doesn't track with me.
But yeah, and NB Geeps Live Talk says, hearing Alan Dean Foster's name thinks of Splinter of a Mind's Eye. Great book. And then said, man, got to be the guy, let Purple Valkyrie and Sammy Joe, that they got 200 subs on their live stream. I will hold that in my heart forever. I got to be the guy to let Purple Valkyrie and Sammy Joe, that they got 200 subs on their live stream. I don't even know.
He was the 200th sub for them.
Oh, you were there too? Okay, got it. I'm like, I was getting confused. Sorry.
I had a couple minutes to work that out ahead of time already.
Yeah, I like that. LD says, sup NG. That looks so bad right there. And then... oh, man. I know that's not what you meant. I saw an article that said Picard balanced nostalgia with modern storytelling. I said, now remove Star Trek Picard from that and put Cobra Kai in it, and it would be correct. Yeah, I would disagree with that. I mean, that's the problem, is that we get these... Here's what's been happening, and it's become this war of ideology where it's not about whether the show is good or bad. And Sean Casey throws 5 pounds in. Thank you, my friend.
I got him! Great kid! Don't get cocky!
How nice to wake up to Anti-Trek Alive. Waiting for Lower Decks in the UK. All Star Trek series have dodgy beginnings but end up pretty good.
I disagree with you when you say all Star Trek series have dodgy beginnings, because I will say the original series did not. And it was truly boldly going where no one had gone before, because it was the first. But, you know, yes, was the first episode a little shaky? Sure. But the first season, pretty solid. In fact, you know, Darren was even talking about on your stream earlier that some of the best episodes were before they even came up with Starfleet as the name of their military organization. You know, they were calling it like the United Space Agency and stuff like that. And so early season 1 stuff had some great episodes of TOS. I think that Deep Space Nine had a phenomenal series opener with
season, yeah.
Emissary. But even with that, I think the best season opener of any of them was Enterprise. Broken Bow was a great opening story with first contact with the Klingons that, of course, led to decades of war that didn't happen. But whatever. What he meant was, and decades later, we would go to war with them when they discovered cloaking technology before we ever heard of a cloaking device. And
that was a problem with that Enterprise faced. They had good stories, but they had bad continuity.
Yes. They had very bad continuity, but of course that's okay. Discovery will make it all better.
Yeah.
But thank you for the £5, Sean. I truly appreciate it. But I don't mean to pick on you a little bit, but I know that a lot of people say, "Oh, Star Trek always starts out shaky." Not true. TNG started shaky.
Oh gosh.
TNG was bad the first season. I mean, yes, Measure of a Man was a great episode, but that was like the one great episode of season one. And season 2 finished with that Shades of Grey.
The clip show, yeah.
Yeah, they should have called it 50 Shades of Grey, and at least just had a little Troy Riker action in there. It was
TNG was stillborn. They had to work their way up to shaky.
Yeah, it was. Oh man, Encounter at Farpoint was, man, just threw up a little.
And the Renegades pointing out that Measure of Man was season 2.
Oh, was it? I thought it was season 1.
I gotta look up. I thought so too, but it'd make more sense for it to be season 2, to be honest.
Did you really like Picard? They turned him into a robot at the end. If they're even thinking about that, he just should have died, right? Come on, dude.
So, and I know you couldn't read that, but Robert Green put in a $3 donation. Said, Did you really like Picard? They turned him into a robot at the end. They even, if they even thinking about that, he should have just died, right? Come on, dude. Well, remember, first of all, I've said many times, where Picard as a series went downhill was the episode, was it Broken Pieces or Shattered Pieces or something like that? It was like third from the end. And unfortunately, the series just spiraled out of control those last 3 episodes. They were building up, and we got the Borg, and they're all dead, and now everything sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? Huh? Wait, Picard's a robot now? What? Huh? No, I look, I am not defending the end of Picard season 1. They totally botched the landing. I mean, what Picard season 1 would be like if you watch a figure skater just doing a great job, and then her final move is a triple axel, and she comes down and hits the ice so hard that her knee literally pops out of her leg and blood is spraying over the ice. That's what that was like. And so that's honestly the best way to describe Picard season 1. Anyway, Joseph said, criticism is not hate. And like you just said, back in the 80s, the studio listened and improved the show. Today, they refuse to listen. I get that, but you know what? I'm not saying criticism is hate. But because I think you can honestly critique stuff. But you know what? Calling the producers and directors and showrunners names, that's not criticism. That's hate. All right, if you want to critique a show, then stick to, this is what works, this is what doesn't work. Like if I was talking about Discovery, I would talk about the continuity problems. I would talk about the fact that Michael Burnham is not very well written as a character, and in fact, she's not much of a character at all. And that's all good criticism. As opposed to Alex Kurtzman is a pox upon the House of Trek. That's not a criticism. That's just hate. And
we talked about this on my stream.
Right.
About the people who debunk flat Earth videos. It's just ad hominems.
Exactly. And ad homs do not help. And the problem is, and this is where, like when my whole rant about the Phantom Menace that I did last week, what it was all about, is the idea that if you're just going to attack, and make it personal, don't be surprised when they do it back. And unfortunately, and this is the problem, is that this is, it's predictable as all heck. Heck, they predicted it back in the 60s in the episode Court Martial, when Kirk's long-lost love of the week said, hey, you know what? If Captain Smith found out that Lieutenant Commander Jones hated him, wouldn't it not be likely that Captain Smith would start to hate Lieutenant Commander Jones, right? It's just simple human nature. If everybody's going to sit there and say, F you, Alex Kurtzman, then why wouldn't Alex Kurtzman say, F you, you toxic fanboys?
Yeah.
And the problem is that and don't get me wrong, I'm not defending the shows. I'm just saying, you know what? We don't need to make it personal, a personal grudge against Alex Kurtzman. We need to talk about what's good and what's bad about these shows. And, that's why I can watch Lower Decks and give you an honest review and tell you, hey, you know what? I'm enjoying this show. It has nothing to do with the fact that Alex Kurtzman's name happens to be in the credits. And by the way, he's not the showrunner. Mike McMahon is. So please stop trying to say this is Kurtzman Trek. If anything, this is McMahon Trek. Kurtzman just gets his name as executive producer because his name is going to show up on all Trek for the foreseeable future, just like Roddenberry's name has appeared on all Trek from day one. But do you think, Gene Roddenberry's name is in the credits for Lower Decks. How much creative control do you think Gene Roddenberry has on Lower Decks?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the answer is 0.
Yeah. Oh.
Unless they have a fabulous medium on the team.
Or he's a koala.
Yeah, he is the koala.
Yeah.
That's why he's smiling.
And Renegade says, you always say TOS had a dodgy beginning the cage. That's an episode. And by the way, that is not the first aired episode. The first aired episode was actually the Man Trap. And so the first aired episode of TNG was Encounter at Farpoint. If Encounter at Farpoint was a rejected pilot, I would have more respect for them. Oh, man. Let's see. It's fun to see the Bird of Prey. Wasn't that in last week's episode? I know a Twitch streamer that interviewed Mike McMahon from Lower Decks, and a week after she did an interview, she received an artist's rendering of her in a Lower Decks uniform. Oh, very cool. I don't know if Foley and Cockings will get something like that, but they're... that would be cool. Trek Viewer says, United Space Probe Agency. That's right. Yes, that was actually I'm glad they didn't stick with that one. Measure Man was season 2. Riker had a beard. And okay, I stand corrected. I didn't look it up, but I will take your word for it. Voyager was shaky for 3.5 seasons. Voyager never, in my opinion, stopped being shaky. Voyager
I'm the opposite way. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, you're weird.
I
do say this, though. Voyager, and because looking at your little set piece behind you, Voyager did have the coolest looking bridge. I will give you that. It was functional, it made sense, and I liked it. I liked the Voyager bridge a lot. But anyway, let's see. Drew's out there. Love sometime to talk to you about it, but I honestly like many TNG season 1 episodes. On my earliest memory is watching Encounter Farpoint with my dad. I actually like that episode. But you know what? And that's okay. You know what? Entertainment is entirely subjective. If you loved Encounter Farpoint, awesome, I'm happy for you. I still think it sucks. I think that the idea that Q is a glowing ball with 3 snake heads sticking out of it was stupid. And in fact, people that like to argue that Q is omnipotent, Q had a tough time catching up with the Enterprise moving at maximum warp. People seem to forget that Q actually, had to, accelerate to try and catch them. And of course, I love like the fake drama in that episode. Like, maximum you're all entitled to know is that we're going to be taking it well beyond the safety limits. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, what that would have been awesome if the ship just blew up right there. And it's like, yeah, what are you trying to tell us, that you're more daring than Kirk or something? And my favorite thing is Picard, saying, "Okay, Mr. Riker, you did a great job parking the ship."
Yeah, I really told that guy to do his job.
Yeah, I know, because Riker's parking the ship was okay. Approach and dock. Great job, number one. Yeah, I just wanted to see Data go like, it was me. Or was it?
That's kinda like
Actually, was it
last
O'Brien?
week.
It might have been O'Brien. I'm trying to remember. He wasn't named at that point, but he was. Yeah, because they just called him Khan. But yeah,
It
I
was
think
2 weeks ago. It was when Ransom went in under manual power on the shuttlecraft, and
Yeah.
Boimler or Mariner's in the back like, "Oh, that's why it's called autopilot.
Yeah.
We don't need to take it off."
Let's see. Thank you, LOL. It was a bad landing. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. That hippie colony at the end of Picard is about the size of Federation. Is about the size the Federation should be without a military. Yes, indeed, that is true. Did you notice the flashback had DS9 comm badges? Well, they were wearing DS9 uniforms. So yeah. Bradley says Antrekker hates me. I don't hate you, Bradley. Why would you think that? Loquisha says, Antrekker, if you actually listen to Doomcroc doing a live stream on Lower Decks, 95% is what you're calling legit criticism. The hate is just peppered in for flair. Well, actually, let me say this about Doomcock. And notice, I did not name Doomcock. Right? So just for the record, I didn't bring Doomcock up earlier. But if you want to talk about Doomcock's particular style, he's very interesting because during his live streams, you are 100% correct. During his live streams, he's very analytical and very careful about what he's saying. It's his edited videos in which he's all hyperbolic and spewing the hate. That's his style. Now, granted, in his edited videos, he's being a supervillain and, he's, got Harvey Cthulhu in a cage and all that crap. And the funny thing is, and yet people take that seriously. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Doomcock. He's a great guy. I've talked to him a number of times, and he's a great, great guy. He's a nice guy. He's wonderful, fun to talk to, and people take his supervillain persona seriously. And that's the problem. The problem is that people watch, and it's kind of interesting because a very small percentage of your subscribers actually watch your live streams if you have more than just a couple hundred subscribers. Like I have 14,000 subscribers. I usually have 50 to 100 people on a live stream. And so, and with Doomcock, Doomcock's got over 200,000 subscribers, and he'll have like 5,000 on a live stream. So the numbers are equally disparaging between your number of subscribers and the number of people that show up on your live streams. That being said, you put out an edited video, and a whole lot more of your subscribers will actually watch that. And so, like, Doomcock may do a live stream which 5,000 people watch, but he puts out an edited video, and he'll get 50, 100, 150,000 views on that video. And guess what? They're all seeing him doing the hate routine, the talking about, Discovery, and that all that crap. And I know he's just doing it for fun, but people take that seriously. And so that's a problem. That is a genuine problem. To be fair, Spock ordered Saavik to pilot out a space dock, and she took a command chair and ordered Sulu to do it. Yeah, that was actually kind of one of those moments too. And Kirk was even nervous about it. It's like, it's Sulu. What are you worried about? Sulu's going to crash into the side of space dock. But that is
she told me to go, 3 degrees of starboard. So here we go. Gotta do it.
It's just like in that same, that whole same thing, like, when Saavik is like course heading captain to Spock, and Spock looks at Kirk, and Kirk's like, captain's discretion, and Spock says, Mr. Sulu, you may indulge yourself. And Sulu's like, oh boy. Like, ooh, what are you going to do? Drive to the porn planet or something? I mean, what?
Oh, my.
Yeah, it's like, what? Oh boy, I get to indulge myself. 98 Mark II. Woo! Yeah, it's like I never got that. Robert says, Auntie, oh my God, you're so wrong. Q was awesome. Well, if you liked him, great. I didn't. I thought Q was stupid in that first episode. Now, when they retconned that to be the bookends of the series, I think it worked. But I still think Encounter at Farpoint was a horrible episode. DS9 Season 2 started off really well with the 3-episode arc of the Homecoming, the Circle, and the Siege, where Frank Langella was playing a Bajoran seizing DS9 from the Federation. Good stuff. I don't remember that very well. It's been a long time since I watched Season 2. And Michael, you say no one takes Doomcock seriously? Yeah. I've got a few thousand hate messages to prove you otherwise. So anyway, Forza says, another solid episode of Lower Decks. What's your favorite episode of TNG? My favorite episode of TNG is Chain of Command. I really like Chain of Command because it hits on two sides. Number one, Captain Jellicoe was freaking awesome. He should have stayed captain of the Enterprise. He was a better captain than Picard. I'm sorry, I'll say it. Captain Jellicoe, I mean, when he told Troy to stop wearing pajamas on the bridge, you know, and by the way, that was the last time you saw Troy wearing one of those stupid cat suits. From that point on, she wore a uniform. And so I like that. But then that is the B story behind the A story of There Are Four Lights, which is just a great, great Picard storyline. So, and the whole thing about the whole psychological battle between Picard and that Cardassian, and played wonderfully by, oh gosh, what's his name? He played the Klingon Chancellor in Star Trek VI too. And now I'm forgetting his name, but anyway, but he did a wonderful job as the Cardassian. Picard, I mean, great guest starring role. Picard was awesome in it, and that whole thing is like, despite what you've done to me, I find you a pitiable man. You know, David Warner, thank you, Donnie. David Warner handed in a great performance. Patrick Stewart gave one of his best performances. It was freaking awesome. So that's my hands down favorite TNG episode. What about you? What's your favorite TNG?
Sarek.
Right. Oh, okay.
Absolutely, Sarek.
You like the mind meld?
I do like the mind meld, and I also just love the fact they let Patrick Stewart just act his way out of that scene, where he's breaking down, he's laughing maniacally, he's weeping, and the doctor is just sitting right there next to him through the whole thing. Crusher. Sorry, it's getting a little too late for me.
That's all right. Yeah, Doomcock would be a good name for an adult film star. Well, yeah, I could see that. Of course, Michael, either Star Trek V: The Final Frontier or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze introduced me to David Warner. I'm so sorry. Wow, two of his worst performances. Well, it's not his fault that both the movies sucked. Gosh.
The only movie in which Shredder had a rap song.
Did he really? I don't think I saw. I don't think I've ever seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2.
Well, I guess it was technically the Turtles that had it, but yeah, at the end of it, I want to say it was Ice Cube. He did this rap: "Go ninjas, go ninjas, go ninjas, go." And that's like the entire rap, basically. And the Turtles are fighting Shredder while this rap song's going on.
Wow. Monty says Picard is French. The words "capable commander" and French have a court order preventing them from being used in the same sentence. Well, you know, here's the ultimate irony of Picard, is that the first French captain of the Federation flagship, and the first thing he does as captain of the Federation flagship is surrender. You can't even make that up. You know, it's like, really? Lieutenant, broadcast this on all languages and all frequencies. We surrender because I'm French. You know, that's
I'm sorry. Yeah, not Ice Cube, Vanilla Ice. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Ice Cube can actually rap. And Robert Green puts in another $3. Thank you, my friend.
I got him! Great hit! Don't get cocky.
Shout out to a great and awesome captain, Captain Edward Jellicoe.
100% agree what Robert Green said is shout out to a great and awesome captain, Edward Jellicoe. Jellicoe was a freaking awesome captain. And yeah, oh gosh, what's the name of that actor? Yes, he was in RoboCop, but and he was in Total Recall. It's funny because he always plays a dick. And it's funny because in RoboCop, that was quite literally his name. What is his name?
I'm trying to look it up real quick here.
Ronnie Cox. Thank you, Donnie. Donnie got it again. Ronnie Cox, yes. So Ronnie Cox always plays complete dicks. If you look at his IMDb page, he's always playing a complete butthead. And so when Picard is like, I'm going on this secret covert ops mission, and Captain Jellicoe will be running the ship, and Ronnie Cox beams on, you're like, oh, this is going to go bad. That's because now they have literally Captain Evil on the ship. And he turns out to be the best Starfleet captain we've ever seen in to that point in Generation 2. I mean, he really came across as a captain. First thing he did was like, oh, no, we ain't playing. Sorry. And this is what I hated about that episode. Even though it's my favorite TNG episode, Riker was so insufferable in that episode because Riker was sitting there basically being straight up insubordinate to him. The episode played it up that Riker was right. He wasn't. Jellicoe was right. Riker was being insubordinate, and Riker should have been busted down, quite frankly.
He almost wasn't he? Like he started to have Data be.
Well, yeah, he relieved Riker of duty, but Riker. I mean, I'm saying like Riker should have been court-martialed for some of the stuff. I mean, he was flat out insubordinate. Rifle Cecile never shot, used only once as a flagpole. Inquire at French embassy. He's a dick in Stargate SG-1. You know what? I haven't seen him yet. I haven't gotten that far. Oh, wait. Yes, I have. He was that guy that was running for president. Yes, he is a complete dick in that.
He's always like trying to shut them down, I want to say.
Yeah.
Or reduce funding.
Let's see. Forza says, Chain of Command is a classic. Captain Jellicoe, another goodie. The TNG episode, The Offspring, actually hits you in the gut at the end. Data's daughter says it all. That one, you know what? Honestly, that one didn't get me in the feels. If you want an episode that really hits me in the feels, The Inner Light. Picard living that entire lifetime.
Oh yeah.
And then of course when they open up what was in that vault, it was the flute that he had played throughout his entire life, reliving the life of another person on that planet. And could you imagine what that must be like? Because when he comes out of it, he had basically he'd forgotten he was Captain Picard at that point. And then yeah. Robert says Riker was an effing dick. Yes, he was. Coming from a 90s kid, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze is a classic of cinematic history. Yeah, that's why you're a kid of the 90s, because you would actually believe that. Jun Wong says, Red Letter Media has the same opinion about Riker in the Four Lights episode. Yeah, Riker was wrong. He was absolutely wrong. Jellicoe did nothing wrong. Hashtag Jellicoe did nothing wrong. Because Jellicoe simply wanted... this is the Federation flagship, and they're mad at this guy because he wants them to live up to the standards of the Federation.
Basically, change from a 3 to 4 shift rotation.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Which actually means your shift is going to be shorter. So why is that a problem exactly?
They had to do it right away. He wanted like a month to work out the logistics.
I mean, that means, and I'm not an expert on how shift rotations work, and, because I never served on a submarine. Like Darren talks all about this stuff, but it seems like if they're going based on a 24-hour day, then that means they're going from an 8-hour shift to a 6-hour shift. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, yeah, it would have to be.
Right. Which episode's worst? Which episode is the worst of Star Trek? Move Along Home, Threshold, Turnabout Intruder, Night in Sickbay, Code of Honor, or Shades of Grey? Well,
Ooh,
I know you like Move Along Home, but those are all turds of
Yeah.
episodes. I will give you that, but I'm going to have to say Threshold is because it's so insulting to anybody that understands any. I mean, if there's any type of science that you understand in the slightest, you will be offended by Threshold. Whether it be the idea that they can go to infinite velocity. That's actually their goal, is to reach infinite speed. And and the funny thing is, even if they were successful, if they were able to go to infinite speed, which by definition means that you will simultaneously occupy every place in the universe at once, how do you control where you end up?
luck.
I mean,
I'm going with luck.
if you consider it, so Tom Paris manages to get his shuttle, a shuttlecraft, to go to infinite speed. And of course, they even have the dramatic, as he's approaching warp 10, how all of a sudden the comms fade out because he's getting so far away. Well, wait a minute. If he's occupying every place in the universe, why would he be far away? Because he's also right there. You see, they don't understand infinity. They're like, I think LDG wrote this episode. Just kidding, LD. Just kidding. So they don't understand infinity. They don't, and then they use the holodeck to simulate whether or not they could successfully break the laws of physics. How is the computer going to figure that out? Then
It can only do what you program it to know.
Then we find out that, of course, evolution means we're all going to eventually turn into salamanders and lose our tongues and not be able to breathe.
So where did their mask go, and how did they get that mask back as they converted to and back from being a salamander?
Well, I don't know, but and then of course they abandon their children because Tom Paris and Janeway become space salamanders, apparently do the deed and have a litter of babies, and then they leave the litter of babies behind, bring Tom Paris and Janeway back up to the ship, and cure them during a commercial break. How do you make a show that bad on purpose?
And doesn't Janeway imply that she Me Too'd Paris?
Yes, she implies that it was all her idea. Yeah, that she. So yeah, basically Janeway raped Tom Paris, had a bunch of babies, and then abandoned her babies. That's Star Trek canon, people.
Unfortunately, yes.
It is
That
Star
was a
Trek.
bad episode. Was it really worse than the clip show, though, or the racist?
You see, that's the problem. You see, like, okay, Shades of Grey was just lazy, and I know that, like Darren's talked about the writer's strike, blah blah. You know what? Then you should have just ended the season one episode earlier, because throwing the clip show in was crap. And I know that Darren also has a soft spot for Dr. Polanski, and that was her last episode, but it was crap. But it's not offensively bad. It's just a run-of-the-mill clip show. And so I didn't care for it. And at that point, Star Trek was only on for 2 seasons, so there wasn't even that much stuff to clip from, So, so I didn't particularly care for Shades of Grey, but it didn't offend me like Threshold did. Now, Code of Honor, that is a messed up episode. Not going to lie. But Code of Honor's problem is, like, it's not that it's logically inconsistent, it's just offensive. Right? And so I can, when I watch Code of Honor, I shake my head and go, man, I cannot believe this was made in 1986. You know, when I watch Threshold, I'm like, oh my God, how could anybody ever from any time at any point in history write this story? It doesn't make it. There's nothing about Threshold that is even logically consistent. You know, it's like they literally. It's like somebody looked up evolution and said, "Let's do the opposite of that," and call it evolution. Why not? Turnabout Intruder. I will not put on the worst episodes of all time because it is absolute comic gold to watch William Shatner pretend to be a woman. Like when he's sitting there filing his nails and stuff. I mean, and the way he's walking around, you know, I love it's actually, he does a really good job of personifying a woman trapped in a man's body. So I thought it was hilarious. So, granted, a stereotypical woman. So a Move Along Home, I just think is dumb. But honestly, not the worst episode of Deep Space Nine. Even I don't know what the worst episode of Deep Space Nine would be, but I don't think it would be Move Along Home.
See, Move Along Home, there's no deeper message. It was just a fun romp.
Yeah,
nothing happened. You can remove it from the series and nothing's lost from it not being in canon. But it was fun. I enjoyed it just for it being a fun romp.
So Forza says, that was an awesome episode. It had such humanity. For me, TNG era was Trek, although my dad gave me high respect for the TOS series of movies. I'm not sure which episode you were talking about because I was on a tangent about a bunch of episodes. Doesn't Paris mention that he was focused on the Voyager and he dropped out of Transwarp at Voyager's location? I don't remember. I haven't watched Threshold in a long time, but it doesn't matter. If you are occupying every space in the universe, how could you? I mean, what? He just good feelings? That's how he steered the ship? That doesn't make any sense. And by the way, so we established that during the commercial break, the doctor literally comes up with a magic hypo spray that cures them of being salamanders, right? Now, then, why the hell don't they use this new Warp 10 technology to go home? Because, oh no, everybody would turn into salamanders. Well, the doc's got hypo sprays that can cure that, so no problem. Why aren't they at home at that point? You just need a probability drive. That's true. Boys Season 2 released Friday. I did not realize it. Are you talking about this coming Friday or last Friday? Because I didn't think it was out yet. And Renegades, that's not how evolution works. I know. It's like I could see like William or Harrison Ford say, that's not how evolution works. Remember that time Janeway went... Huh?
It's September the 4th is when it comes out.
Oh, okay. So 2 days. Well, no, a day from now. Cool.
Yeah.
Remember that time Janeway went hang gliding with Leo da Vinci? No, Anna Pulaski. I know. I always say Polanski. I don't know why. It's like a mental block of mine. Daniel says, you don't like the Voyager Warp 10 episode, do you, Andy Checker? I thought it was interesting, although I don't get it. They say Warp 10 is infinite speed, but in TOS they have beyond Warp 10. Well, but there is while not on screen, a official explanation, which is that the warp scale changed. The TNG warp scale is different than the TOS warp scale. But then they broke the TNG warp scale in All Good Things when the Enterprise X was able to go, what was it, warp 12, 13, something like that? Which doesn't make a lot of sense. But yeah, in TNG or in TOS, the warp scale was, you know, like they had ships that were attacking. Like I remember, oh gosh, I think Nomad's bolts of energy were moving at like warp 15 or something like that, and they had they were being attacked by an Orion ship that was moving at like warp 12. You know, they've had several incidents of ships going faster than warp 10, and even the Enterprise, I believe, broke warp 10. So But that's on the TOS warp scale. The TNG warp scale is different, where warp 10 is supposedly infinite speed, which means that any conceivable speed would just be warp 9.99999, etc.
Right.
You know, and so there, you know, warp 10 being an impossibility because that would be infinite speed, until Tom Paris broke the warp 10 barrier, because why the heck not?
Oh, that guy.
That Tom Paris.
I'm a high sci-fi writer. No, no.
I mean,
Different rung high. You're high, all right, but
yeah, that was whew. Worst Deep Space Nine episode might be the Muse, where Troy's mother wants to marry Odo. Yeah. What's with Troy's mom just trying to get with everybody she meets?
she's lonely.
I guess. Well, she was married to Gene Roddenberry, so there's that. Ensign Ricky says, probably the two most hated episodes of Deep Space Nine, Move Along Home and Prophet and Lace. I'm trying to remember, Prophet and Lace, is that the one where we get transgendered Ferengi?
I think so. Where
Yeah.
Quark had to. I thought that was a
He
funny
actually got
episode.
the surgery. I mean, it was truly transgendered Ferengi. Why
Yeah.
not? And yet, they have the gall to say that this upcoming season of Discovery will have Star Trek's first transgendered character. Quark had the effing surgery. Not to mention,
No, it's the first actor who is transgendered. They don't care about the character on the screen.
oh yeah, that's true. You know, and that's the stupid thing too. Is that now it's like, you know, like the one actor is like, oh, this actor is non-binary. They go by they or them. Then you're an idiot. I'm sorry. Look, you want to call yourself a tree or a dog or a fern or whatever, I don't care. But to call yourself they is a plural. You are not a they. You know, you can be a he, you can be a she, you can be an it, but you can't be a they. Sorry. I'm not going there.
Well, I have multiple personalities. Where are they? I don't think that's what they mean, though. But I could be a they. You don't know. You don't know us.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. You know what? And like I said, I don't hate people. I really don't, even though I sound like I do sometimes. But you're an idiot if you want to sit there and say, no, I go by they. Please, you're offending me by calling me a he just because I'm a male human.
Mm.
You know, get over it.
It might come down a lot to attention for desire, or desire for attention.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, if you're going to actually say, oh, I'm non-binary, right? What that means is you just want attention. Because, you know what? Look, a transgender person, I understand that's a real thing. And if a transgender person is a person who honestly believes that they are the opposite gender than they are physically, that's a real condition, and I'm not belittling that at all. But you know what? If you are a transgender, you go by he or she. It's just not conforming to what your body is. You're saying that you are the opposite of what your body is. To say you're non-binary and you prefer they, you're just being stupid. I'm sorry. That's just dumb. Because, you know what? You're not more than one person unless you're the freaking Borg. Renegade says, my headcanon will change the warp scale and all good things is because the improvements in warp speed had ships at top speed of 9.9999996. That would be fine, except that the warp 10 barrier is after that. Because Voyager hadn't premiered yet. In TOS, they regularly did combat at warp, did maneuvers at warp. If you rewatch it with a fresh lens, you'll notice that it's odd. It's not odd. They are able to do combat at warp. And that's why, like, if they're on impulse, it feels like they're moving in slow motion compared to the other ship, because they are. Anyone else hate the Traveler? It's hard to imagine you can fly 1 billion light years away and it happens because telekinetic hippie crap. Well, you know, at least he didn't turn them into lizards or salamanders or whatever. Monty says, Threshold proves what I was saying. The Federation is too incompetent to exist. Look at what happens when they haven't got someone actively babysitting them. Joseph says, or maybe the DS9 episode where they go to Risa with Worf and Dax argue and Quark is busy looking for girls into Ferengi. I think it was Those Without Sin. Yeah, that was not a good episode of D Space Nine. That was, yeah. In fact, that's one thing that I know, I can't remember who it was. I think it's, actually, I think it's Ian Slater. I've been on his Sunday night live stream a couple of times now. And he was talking about sex in Trek. And it actually, I think it'll be an interesting conversation. And Robert Green puts another $3 in.
What so Snowflake and Safe Space is in Starfleet? Haven't heard this.
What so Snowflake and Safe Space is in Starfleet? Yes. Apparently, yes. In Discovery Season 3.
What was the DS9 episode where they got the psychic virus that made them think there were other people, and Cisco built the mechanical clock?
Oh, I don't remember now.
I think that was my least favorite DS9 episode.
But so you like that? You like that one more than the everybody go to Rice and have sex episode? Because I think that one was trash. I mean, the only good thing about that was seeing Vanessa Williams.
At least that one was just annoying. The clock episode, everyone was, I don't know, they had some pretty bad acting in that episode. That one or the one where the myths came to life. Like, that one was just kind of a boring episode to me.
Yeah. But yeah, the let's see. Donnie says, and non-binary. Yeah, don't get me started on non-binary. Troy's mom being horny, I think, is from Troy being the replacement Ilea from TMP. So the Betazoids are the Deltans with their hyper sex drive. Roddenberry had issues. Yeah, he did. And Ensign Ricky says, are the Borg a they? Yes, but that would be the only, I even said it, that would be the only true they, but that's because all the Borg are one. So June Wan says, I identify as Borg, so my pronoun is they. Respect the plural of the collective. June, you're no longer my friend. Dreamers out there says, no binary people called agender. Google agender. I'm not Googling it. I'm not interested. It's stupid. Look, I get it. Like I said, transgenderism is a real thing. Homosexuality is a real thing. Non-binaryism is begging for attention. I'm not going to feed that one. Non-binary does not compute. Get it?
I get it.
Joseph says TNG separated the saucer section at Warp in the first episode. Yes, and they had to tell us how incredibly dangerous it was, and then they did it with no hitches whatsoever. Because, you know,
they're that good.
Yeah, they're just that awesome.
Hello, world.
And Matthew, Life with Matthews, plural, donated $1.
I was really disappointed we didn't see Boimler Dingaling. I wonder how big he is.
Wow, Matthew, I'm surprised you would ask that.
Yeah, because obviously I could just pause it and measure pixels. I mean, there's no question about how big he is.
Wow, that was just wrong. Snowflakes and Trek put phasers to max, eliminate with extreme prejudice. Oh yeah, snowflakes. Wait till Discovery. See, man, I'm gonna need that stupid punching bag when Discovery comes out. I can tell. I mean, and this is the sad thing. Why is it that it now matters what the sexual preference of the actor is? Why does that matter in any way, shape, or form? And I ask it in all seriousness for a moment. I mean, like with Batwoman, they did the same crap, right? Where the girl that was playing Batwoman wasn't gay enough. And so they had to find someone that's more gay than she was because it's really important that the actor be gay. Because why? Aren't they actors? Aren't they paid to pretend to be things that they're not?
Yeah, and like I've read a couple articles about they made a big point. The first non-binary and transsexual couple And they go through talking about like, well, we already had the first black female lead, we already had the first gay couple, and now we're having this. I'm like, you're just ticking boxes. There's no point to it.
Right. And you know what? That doesn't make it a good show. What makes it a good show is interesting stories, and what are you doing with it? Is there a greater point to it? You know, simply saying, "Oh, guess what? Our show is gayer than your show." I don't care. You know, Stamets' sexual preference honestly I don't care. I think Stamets was actually one of the better characters from Discovery. You know, but now it's like, oh, well, we haven't made the show quite gay enough, so I'm going to get demonetized. Permission to clear the bridge, Captain. Time to take out the snowflakes. Oh, man. Malfi says, how did the shuttlecraft even survive infinite velocity that the hull integrity of bigger, more durable ships starts to fall apart at going 9.9 for so long? Well, not only that, but how was the holodeck able to simulate the stresses of going to infinite velocity? You realize you just put that up on the screen for everybody to see. The entire screen flashed blue with your message.
That's funny.
So yes, we will be wrapping this up. I'm sorry. I know Matthew is getting tired. Poor Matthew.
It's true.
It's way past his bedtime, and he's got a long non-binary day tomorrow. Do you see how it turns the screen blue that time?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So don't do that and put it. I'm glad you didn't put anything embarrassing up there. Oh man. Here, stop talking about it. I'm on binary. I find this offensive. Trans and bi are all that thing in Trek, and wait for it, totally inconsequential to how you treat it as a person. All this pendulum swinging making me Disney. Well, that's the thing. Who cares? I mean, why are they making? You know, the last thing I need to hear. You know, let me put it to you this way. Okay, let's suppose that you work on a team of people. Like I work on a team of about a dozen people. And your boss says, hey, guess what, everybody? We brought in a new team member. This is Matthew. Matthew is transgender. He prefers to be called queer. And, you know, we're going to talk all about the people he has sex with for the next 20 minutes. You know, I don't care. I don't. I really could not care less about the sexual preference of their newest employees.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's what they're doing. They're kind of cramming down our throat, no pun intended, the sexuality of these people. I think.
And then if you're to respond with, well, you know, I'm straight and I prefer to be called he, it'd be like, oh, you're just trying to impress me.
Yeah.
How dare you tell me this stuff?
And Misha donates $2 just for the heck of it. Thank you, Misha. I don't know if I've seen you around here before, so welcome if you're new. And if you're not new, well, what took you so long? I'm just kidding. Riker fell in love with a non-binary character. We had a third gender on Enterprise, as you mentioned, Quark, and then we throw up the first, and then they throw at us the first. Yeah, I know. It makes no sense. Because nothing, I mean, and you know what? Don't even try to tell me about actors, because Sulu was straight, but George Takei was gay. So don't talk to me about actors either. All right? It's just stupid. It doesn't matter to me what the actors' preference are, and the characters, there are no more firsts that they could possibly do, because they actually had Quark become a female and then a male again.
Yeah, and it's funny, they're having to get more and more specific. So it's not that Burnham is the first lead who's black. We have to say black female because Siska was already around.
Right. So wait, we haven't had a lead lesbian Latina paraplegic yet.
Yep, we gotta get on it.
Yeah, they got to get that on there, man. We really need to have that, because we just can't. We got to check that box. I mean, we have had paraplegics running around Discovery with a freaking wheelchair in the 23rd effing century, running around a starship in a wheelchair.
Now, was the actor paraplegic or just the character?
No idea. Probably
Because
yeah.
otherwise, that
Yeah.
is appropriating, and Star Trek is being ableist, and we need to end their ableist tyranny.
I'm done. You know what? It's funny because we started out on having fun with a fun episode of Lower Decks, and we ended up on this whole stupid tirade about left-handed, red-haired Eskimo. We haven't had that. You're right, Mike Richards. They need to get right on there. Oh no! Sulu was gay. He was just bi. Well, no, Sulu was straight. And you see, and this is the most egregious thing of all of Trek. Sulu in the Prime timeline was straight. George Takei confirmed that Sulu was straight. However, in the Kelvin timeline, he's gay, which means that according to Star Trek canon, sexual preference is a choice.
And I guess in the Prime timeline, he just didn't meet the right guy.
Right. That's fact. That's just fact right there. All right, guys, have a good night, and we'll see you eventually. Blah, blah. Okay, you got to sing the song now.
No, I got no singing
Come on.
in here.
It's playing. Sing it.
Which song is this one?
This is the
30
ending
second
credits
song.
song. Sure would help a lot.
Wouldn't you like to just get laid?
All right, so you take it from here.
Sometimes you
I don't know. I'm 30 seconds behind. I can't sing lyrics.
know your name.
Something about
All the Trekkies know your name,
everybody's
Glad you
and
came.
they're always glad you came.
You want to be in a galaxy where Star Trek isn't lame.
Where Star Trek
You want
is
to go
lame.
where everyone knows
You
your
wanna go
name.
where everybody
There you got-
knows your name.
They got that part right.
Turds of a feather
So,
flock together.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
we believe.
freaking awesome.
We know a place that's got you covered.
Robert Green say, yes, time to go to bed. Oh, man, I don't get to go to bed for a while. I got to try to get my review. I don't know. I was thinking about taking a nap and trying to do the review later. But I like being the first person out with a review. What do you think I should do?
I think I'm already halfway through the nap, so I mean, good luck to you.
You wanna be where you can see Kuroga go up flames. You wanna go where everybody knows your name.
Just for the record, that was not me.
I think it was Bird of Prey 5.
Really? What did Bird of Prey 5 say about that?
You son of a bitch, anti-tracker!
Wow. And